Good afternoon, class. I'm glad to see you guys. So as you know, we've been covering the elements of art throughout this week. Can any of you remember any of them?
A line.
Line, very good.
Shape.
Shape.
Color.
Color.
Texture.
Texture. Another one.
Form.
Form. Good job. So our last element is going to be value. Do you guys know what value is? You see it every day and you may not even notice it. As you're walking down the street and then you turn around, there's a shadow behind you. Everywhere you go, especially in Laredo because the sun's always up. Well, that's value. But now let's write down the proper definition. So value is the lightness or darkness of a tone or color. So lightness and darkness, do you guys know what that is? It's pretty easy. It's how light something is or how dark something is. But to explain it a little better, we're going to watch this quick 2-minute video. Okay, now that we watched the video, let's see how it works in real life. So I have here 5 crayons, and they're all orange. So you have the lightest one, the middle tones, and the darkest one. So they're all the same color, but they all have different shades. However, there are different components to value. So these are the 4 main ones that we're going to talk about today. So first, there's highlight, which is the area of a surface that reflects the most light. Core shadow, which is the area of darkest shadow that absorbs the most light. So this is where you're going to get your blacks and your darker gray areas. Cast shadow is the shadow created by an object on a surface. And a reflected light, which is the light that is reflected off the surface and back onto the object. So you're probably thinking, what are all these for? Value we use in art to make normal forms and shapes into 3-dimensional objects. So let's see an example of how this works. So here we have a soccer ball, and we're going to see what happens when we apply the light and see our components of value in real life. So here you have the highlight, which is the brightest part, and then the core shadow in the middle, which is the darkest part of the shadow. The reflected light down here, where the light reflects from the table and back onto the ball, and then the cast shadow, that's created by the ball being in between the table and the light. So now let's look at what a value scale looks like. I drew one right here for you guys. And as you can see, it goes from white, which is the lightest value, to black, which is the darkest value. Now your job is going to be to create your own value scale on your own paper. So your job is going to be to create your own value scale. So you're going to get the paper that I gave you, your pencil, and a ruler, and you're going to measure out 7 inches on your page, mark it, and then divide it into 7 parts. So once you've divided it into 7 parts, you're going to label it lightest to darkest, whatever end you want, and you're going to start in your darkest square, and you're going to just fill it in with as dark as possible. You have to apply tons of pressure to make sure you get it as dark as you can. The thing is that you have to shade it evenly, because if you shade it unevenly, you're going to get a value scale inside of a square, and we don't want that. We want just one solid color, and you're going to work your way up to white. So if you have any questions on how to do the value scale, I'll just go around and you can ask me and I'll help you guys out. So now that we finished the value scale, your challenge is going to be to apply all these values into a circle and make it into a ball. So you're going to take your drawing paper that I gave you, and I'm going to pass out some CDs so you guys can make a perfect circle, and you're going to make it right in the middle of your paper. once you do that, you're gonna have to apply these terms into your value scale into your circle and make it into a ball. Okay, well now that we're done with our drawings, let's review a little bit. Let's see what we learned. So who can tell me where the highlight goes on the sphere? Yes?
At the top.
The top where? Okay.
No, more to the bottom. Right there.
Right here. Why does it go here? What is it?
Because it's the part of the ball that has the most light.
Very good. What about the core shadow? What is the core shadow?
The part in the middle.
The middle? Here?
Yeah.
Why?
Because it's the darkest part of the ball.
The darkest part. Good job. What about the cast shadow? Where's the cast shadow?
On the floor.
Over here. Good job. Why? Well,
Because it's the shadow that the light is creating.
yeah, it's the one we see the most when you're walking outside and the sun's hitting you. The one that follows you around. Cast shadow. What about reflected light? This is a little tricky. So,
On the left side of the ball.
left side, over here? No.
No, more to the bottom.
It's down here. It's towards the bottom where the table is. Because when the light's coming in, the light that's on the table reflects back onto the ball, and that's what we see at the very bottom. Good job, you guys. Though we only focused on the sphere today, maybe, you know how I was telling you that value applies every day when you're walking down the street and you see your shadow? It applies to all different shapes, and it also applies to your drawings very easily. So as you can see, this hand here, when it has no value, it just looks flat. And then when we apply the full value, it looks three-dimensional and it creates the whole form. Well, that's value. But now let's write down the proper definition. So value is the lightness or darkness of a tone or color. So we as artists use these values and put them into a scale, and that's how we measure them. You just saw them with the orange crayons, but the one we usually use is the gray scale, and it goes from white with all these grays in between and then ends with black. However, we as artists apply this value and use it in a scale. And a scale is a series of parts that contain all the tones of a color. I showed it to you with the orange crayons, but the one we usually use in art is the gray scale. So it starts with white and it contains all the grays and then ends with black. So Lorena, did you need any help?
Is this where the core shadow goes? Is that right?
Yeah, that's good. You're doing really good. You just have to make sure that you include all the values from your value scale in this ball.
Okay, thank you.
So that's why value is so important in art and in our drawings.